Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome to my presentation on effective independent vocabulary revision in MFL from drilling to skilling. I am an English and MFL teacher. And sorry, 1 second. I don't know. The chat is clicking. There we go. Can you all hear me?
Yes, you're very clear.
Yes. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. So I'm an English and MFL teacher, and you've got my email at the bottom. It's vgonzalezotero with a Z at hotmail.com in case you've got any questions. So I would like to start by asking you to write on the chat, what techniques do your students or will your students use to revise vocab? About 30 seconds to share some ideas. Quizlet, Twitter, meaning and repetition, flashcards, Textivate, don't know Textivate, memorize, testing each other, Canvas, a booklet, yep, lovely. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the presentation, and I've divided it into 4 subsections. So I'm going from drilling activities to a more communicative approach. The first section would be word lists, then picture naming tasks, input flooding and elicitation activities, and emotional strategies. So the rationale behind drilling tasks, obviously, sorry, all of these is once the vocab items have been introduced and as allowed by your school regulations. So word lists, the rationale behind is that in order to enable our students to focus on the higher order skills, for example, speaking or writing, involved in L2 comprehension, reading as well, and production, we need to ensure that the lower order ones have been acquired or performance will be impaired. So I always like to describe language acquisition to my students. I like to use a metaphor or building a house. So I like to tell them that their vocab would be the bricks for the house and their grammar would be the foundation. And then once they've got a good command of both of these elements, in addition to pronunciation, which comes along, then they obviously can add that semantics, the pragmatics, to make their house nice and decorated. So first task, very straightforward, would be copying a list of words. You need to watch out for SE special needs. Would be copying a list of words 5 times, both in English and in Spanish by hand. The rationale behind this is that I used to ask my students just revise words, but then when it came out to low stakes testing, they were not getting good results, and they were admitting that they were not revising at home. So in order to show me that they had revised, they had to copy the words 5 times. Then the second time, they would have to copy a new list of words 3 times, and so on until they started developing independent learning techniques to the point that they didn't need to copy because they were used to doing that. I'm gonna skip this one because it's a task that I have adapted for MFL. So it's a look, say, cover, translate, check, translate again. So students would have the words in the target language on the left-hand side, followed by the translation into English. Then they would say the word and they would cover the Spanish and translate into Spanish. So imagine this student has written rosa for red. So then he or she would check rojo, would copy the right answer, then translate it into English, fold the page in half, and then translate it again into Spanish and check again. In order to practice pronunciation, what I've done for my students is I've created a YouTube channel. It's V González Otero, to keep it simple. And in this case, for example, you're gonna see a presentation. I've muted it, but it's a listen and a repeat presentation on colors. So you would have the color in English and then the translation into Spanish. You can do this with mind maps, any sort of word lists, And ideally, you would be adding a picture to make it easier for them to make the connections. Then some of my students, when I've asked them what they do to revise, they just said, oh, just take the list of words and read them, and that's it. So I've prepared a home learning guide in 12 steps for them. So I'm going to go pretty quick because it's very straightforward. So I would ask them to learn about 10 words, 15 words, depending on their year group, from a list of words, as Helen suggested. So they've got their initial list. Then they will copy out the list neatly onto paper. They will write the Spanish and the English for each word. They will repeat that 3 times. They would cover up the English, and then they would test themselves. If they are not sure, they would have a look at the answer. And if they get a word wrong or have to check, they would have to start back at word number 1. They will be repeating the testing until they've got each word correct at least 3 times. After they've learned these words, they would create flashcards on the vocab that they've learned with the English at the front and the Spanish at the back. They will lay all the flashcards on the table with the English facing up, and then they would say the translation of each word aloud in Spanish, which is the case for any target language. If they guess it right, they would take the card away and put it on a pile. If they guess it wrong, they will look at the right translation and then place it on the table again until they guess it right. Before I move on to this, linked to the previous activity, copying the word, you can also challenge the students and ask them to write a sentence using that keyword. So after they've learned all of their words, if they're struggling with certain words, or if they just want to expand their vocab, I like to ask them to put post-it notes with both the English and the Spanish, or just the Spanish or the target language, on different objects around the rooms, if they are allowed. And obviously, if the parents are really nice, my mom wasn't very nice to me when I was in school because she was very organized, so she wouldn't like to have post-it notes. But if they are allowed, put post-it notes on the walls or in different objects around the house. And the more often they see it, the word written down, the more they're going to embed it in their heads. And then when they've learned the word, they can just remove the post-it off from the wall. I also have some prepared cards that I got from the CGP revision guide. So I got this free sample where the vocab is divided into different topics. I've got them with me as well. Then you would have questions. The questions use words and or pictures. And you have answers to all of the questions and also some extra practice at the end of each card. And as I suggested on my initial NQT presentation, I got these Spark Notes flashcards where they've got the Spanish at the front, and in this case, it would be the French at the back, and it's 1,000 cards for students to use. Second type of activities would be picture naming tasks. As I said, it's very important that students associate the picture with the written word. So for these, students are taught around 10 to 15 words via a 20-minute long PowerPoint presentation. So I will explain that in a second, but during the treatment, they would get the picture and the spelling, and also they would hear how the word is pronounced. And then for the testing, they would just get the picture and they would have to say the word. How do my area of expertise is the acquisition of pronunciation of English as a second language. So how do I make sure that students are improving their pronunciation and also obviously they're learning the words? I got some USB voice recorders. So they look like a normal USB, but if you can see at the corner, you've got an on and off button. So as long as you're allowed by your school and you get parental consent, students can just record their voice and then they bring you the USB with all of their homeworks for speaking practice, for example, where obviously, because we're moving from individual words towards speaking in this case. So very good idea and interesting idea would be to add cognates, especially when it comes to learning pronunciation, but obviously the words. Each word will be presented 3 times in succession along with its spelling and a picture. The words appear 3 times in a row in 3 different sets, randomly arranged each time. There is a 1-minute break between each set of words, and students are not allowed to write down the words. Immediately after the training phase, the students have to repeat all the words they've learned, and the picture will remain on the screen for 3 seconds. Students are expected to say the word in the target language out loud as soon as they see the illustration. Obviously, you can do it in class and just get students to say the word as fast as they can. The third section focuses on input flooding and elicitation activities. So students are given large amounts of input seeded with the target words. For example, at the moment, I've just finished doing the Unit 7 on global issues with my Spanish GCSE Year 11 class. And we've learned exclamation questions, or we've revised exclamation questions such as que va, which means like no way, or que pena, what a pity. So I try to force the language so much. It sounds like a joke, but students like fall into that, and then they start adding that emotion, and then they embed that in their heads better. So for example, if a student doesn't bring the homework and then I have to give them like a planner comment or a detention, then I would just say, oh, que pena. It also helps you release the tension of the moment. So it's really good, and students really appreciate that. So the texts and exercises are artificially manipulated to increase the number of exemplar words. And the goal is to draw the learner's attention to these vocab items in the target language. So elicitation activities, sorry, I love them because they help me collect data and analyze data, because I'm really into research, second language acquisition, and they control for semi-spontaneous speech. So students are presented with a PowerPoint presentation consisted of 1 minute's worth of digitally recorded oral stimuli accompanied by a sequence of pictures. They will listen to the story twice, and it will be read at a normal speed. And then immediately afterwards, the students record themselves, again using the USB. They will retell the story with the help of the images. The pictures are presented at the same speed as in the original audio. Of course, if you cannot afford having students recorded their voices, then you can, for example, just do it in class as a PowerPoint. It would be really good as well to practice speaking now that we are doing it in class, so you can have, because what we may encounter now is that we will have to do the speaking inside the classroom this year, and then students will be a bit shy about speaking. So you can start planning, for them to practice at home, adding images to that presentation. So I'm going to show you an example. So first of all, you can do it as a speaker. I'm just all into speaking. I love that component. But you can also embed it into a writing task by which students have to write a paragraph in Spanish or in the target language that includes all of the words in the box. So you're going to listen to one PowerPoint that I created. Is quite long, but it's one that I created for Spanish native speakers and that are learners of English as a foreign language. So we're just going to hear like 10 seconds.
Should we be hearing sound at the moment, Veronica?
Sorry, Helen, I didn't hear you.
Should we be hearing sound at that point? Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's just share your computer sound. So if you go up to the top where you've got your menu, and I think it's under more, you've got share computer sound. Sorry, no, this is within Zoom.
Sorry. So I'll continue. Can you still see the presentation? Yeah. Okay.
Stereotypes are generalizations about cultures or nationalities. They can be related to food, language, attitudes, etc. For example, English people are often associated with the following: sausage, fish and chips, bacon sandwich, London, tea, Manchester, ketchup, and gin.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it here, but I'll go back to that if you want me to. It's just a very forced text because I was just practicing 2 sounds with students, and I really wanted them because they're really difficult for Spanish speakers, so that's why. But you get the idea of like forcing that. So, emotional strategies, more communicative tasks. As the quote says, information including an emotional component is more easily memorized than information presented without an emotional tone or with emotion deemed neutral. So this is my favorite task that I do in class. I don't do too many games with my students because I struggle a little bit with behavior management. So not like me, but like the classes are a bit disruptive, especially like, you know, bottom sets. But this is a very good activity because every student participates. You will give each student a card, so you can use it as a starter or as a plenary, and it will always display this on the board. The color means different colors, I use it for differentiation. And in this task in particular, students, the target was to improve terminology on how to describe a picture, which is obviously a very key component for the GCSE examination. So students would listen and repeat. I would explain how to pronounce certain sounds. And one student would have the empezar and terminar card, the start and finish card. So the student would say en primer plano, and then the second student, the student who's got the card that says in the foreground, would say in the foreground, al fondo. Then student 3 would say in the background, a la izquierda, to the left, a la derecha, to the right, and so on, until the last person would say me parece que, and then the person who started, who usually is like, oh yeah, I forgot, you know, you can keep going. They need to remember that they are the last one. And so me parece que, it seems to me that they need to finish. This is a very good activity because I present it as a challenge. We call it the 3-2-1 challenge. Go, el reto. And students really like to compete against different classes in the same year group, but also I've done it with different year groups. And last year, my year 9s had the best records on top of like year 11s because they were really engaged. So this helps build a really good dynamic within students. It helps them feel comfortable. It builds teamwork within students. And it's amazing to practice pronunciation and vocab. The second link I've put in here is lyricstraining.com. So you've probably heard of this. Is to practice you can practice with any YouTube video. There is lots of activities, and you can create your own account for free and create your own resources. It ranges from beginner's level with a 10% of the lyrics missing only, all the way to expert. And the good thing is that students would hear the song, and if they need to fill in the gaps with the correct word that they've heard. If they missed the word or they didn't understand, they can press delete and they will go back. And then it can also give you clues as to what the initial is. However, I've got, and these are the last 2 slides, I've got 2 the websites that I've discovered during lockdown, working remotely. One of them is Mentimeter that I've used to create word clouds, but you can also use it for open-ended tasks or select the answers. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the link to Mentimeter, and I would like you, I'm going to put it on the chat. I would like you to, within 30 seconds, if possible, try to write 3 adjectives to describe your personality. So where have I got the chat now? It's not working. Here we go. I'm getting old. Okay, so I'm turning 30 in not many days. So, okay, so would you mind just clicking and typing 3 words in any language to describe your personality? You've got 30 seconds for that. Good. Now I'm going to do what I always do with my students. I'm going to start counting backwards. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tiempo. And I always tell my students, manos arriba, hands up, boli rojo, red pen. So I don't know if I can share now this screen. Let's see. Can you see my Mentimeter?
At the moment, we
screen?
still see your presentation. So you just have to go to New Share,
Okay.
and then
New
you
function,
choose the
and then
window that
screen.
it's in.
Okay.
Great.
This is a nice workshop. So I think you can see now, yeah?
Yeah, we can.
What's happening here? All right.
We did see it.
I know, it's gone now. I'll paste it again. So you're not gonna be able to see like too big, but why is this happening? Done. Okay, it's not working now.
We definitely saw it working though.
I know, but I didn't manage to read everything. Let's see if it's coming up. Why? It's not coming up.
Yeah, perhaps
Okay,
without
well,
the
I'll continue and I'll try when I'm not that nervous with the pressure of the recording to. No, I'll do it later. I'll display it later. Okay, so new and then share this one. Okay, and finally, and that one I'm not gonna mess around. I'm just gonna display it. So Padlet. So Padlet is like a notice board. So if you've not used it before, you can just students can literally, if you're allowed, obviously, they can just upload any files from the computer, share a picture, take a video, record their voice, their screen, even draw. So I'm gonna put this link on the chat, and I would like you now to practice whilst I find the Mentimeter. I would like you to write your feedback on this session on the Padlet instead of the chat, just for today. Okay, so let's see what we've got on Padlet. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen now. Can you see it?
Yep, that's great.
Yep. Okay, lovely. So I haven't managed to, and this is really annoying because it really frustrates me because I'm too perfectionist. I haven't managed to get the Mentimeter out, but maybe we can just type the words. Have we got like 30 seconds to type them again?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes, let's see. Yeah, okay. Let's hope that it works. Thank you so much for the feedback. It's really, really nice. So I'm gonna put it on the chat again and let's hope that it works. Okay. So I've got it now. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Yay! So we've got lots of languages. Spanish, French, German, any other, English, any other languages that I am not identifying? Okay, so you've probably worked with word clouds before, but the good thing about this is that students get really enthusiastic. So first of all, you can use it to practice agreement. For example, in the case of Spanish, the O for masculine, the A for feminine, and then adjectives that finish in E that are both masculine and feminine. And also students feel really proud of the word cloud that they've created. You can use it for practicing key vocab on specific units. And in the center and in bigger font, you can see the ones that are more commonly used. So we've got kind. I don't know how to pronounce freundlich, maybe, and generous. So this is like a really, really nice activity in addition to Padlet if you're ever working remotely, because students love to be doing like tiny tasks. So that's it for me. I'm just gonna finish with a final quote that I always like to use. Be the change that you wish to see in the world, because you know, at difficult times such as the current times that we've got and the uncertainty, you really need to remind yourself that you are in this job because you love education, you love helping students, you love languages, and you need to keep yourself motivated. And I really want to thank Stephen and Helen for doing this for us every month, because it really keeps me like going in difficult days. So if you've got any questions, you can email me or you can just put them in the chat. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Helen, can I have my screen back now, please?
I think you can just take it over. I think you can just start sharing yours, or Veronica, if you can stop sharing yours.
Mine's not working, if you remember.
Oh, sorry, it's mine. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I'm yours. Sorry about this, everybody. So I'll stop the recording now.